This video is just a brief overview of how you can use ppvote matrix within a risk workshop. Of course, it can be used for other types of meeting, but it was written with risk in mind, and that's what we're going to focus on for this particular video. So, the way that your workshop participants assess the risks is to use either a voting keypad or they might be using an internet enabled device such as a smartphone or laptop to cast their votes. So, we show each of the risks on screen and which criteria we're voting on, and I'm going to show you what that looks like next. But essentially, all they've got to do is press the number on the keypad that corresponds with the assessment option that they want to choose. If they change their mind while that vote is open, they can press again. The system will only take one vote per device. So let's say I've pressed 5 and then I think actually I really should have voted 4. If I just press again, it will overwrite that original vote and my vote will be cast as a 4. The smartphone or tablet or laptop version of that would look something like this. So the functionality is basically the same. All they've got to do is tap on the number that they want to vote, and their vote will be counted in exactly the same way as a keypad. Of course, for this version, you would need to have strong internet connection for you as the administrator that's running the session, but also for each of your participants. So if you have got keypads, we do recommend that as the first choice for running this software. This isn't an app on the smartphone, it is just browser based, so there's nothing for people to install. You just need to tell them how to log on in order to cast their votes. So this is an example of a risk and one assessment for that risk. So each of the risks in your list will be given a letter that you refer to it by throughout. And in this one, so we're looking at item H, and we've got a very short descriptor there, which is relating to shortage of staff. That, of course, could be a full risk description if you wanted it to be. It's just a question of how much you can fit on the slide and how easy it is going to be for people to follow that. So everything that you're seeing here is basically user defined. These are colors that we've set. We tend to use traffic light colors on most of our graphs when we're working with risk. But if you wanted all of those in your brand colors, you could change the color of those bars. Equally, the colors of the various fonts could be changed, and you could have a logo showing. We tend to say put your logo at the bottom left of these slides because this is not a PowerPoint slide. It's actually coming from the matrix software, so it's always going to lay it out in a style similar to this, and the bottom left tends to be a safe space. We've kept this one completely plain and obviously stuck with fairly neutral colors. So once we've voted on multiple risks, we can see those plotted like this on an XY chart. So we've got the impact and likelihood showing. So in this example, obviously, our major concerns would be up at the top right. So for example, items B and E would be a concern on here because they are both high impact and high likelihood. We can add another axis to that. So the bubbles that you're seeing there are the control effectiveness score. So the way that we've set this up is that green is good control and red is poor control. You can have all of those appear the same size circles, or you can have them different sizes as I've got shown here. So a larger circle is greater control. So you can see the smallest control there is on items F and C. So that is red and small. So we could turn off the colors if we wanted to. We could make them fixed size, but use the colors if we wanted to. This particular example shows both. A lot of what's within Matrix is quite user definable. So even including those colors, we've set up 4 different colors. You might choose to only use 3, for example, and we've chosen traffic light colors for obvious reasons. Another way that you can display is you can use overlays. So these overlays, the colors are set up again according to your preferences. So every area of this grid can be filled with a color defined by you. Or alternatively, you can use an image, and we'll move on to that in a moment. I have added onto this one here some identifiers. So if you have a risk register that has identifying kind of codes for your risks, you can have those appear on your heat maps as well. And that's one with an image. Now that could be any image you want, because you just browse to the image that you want to use, and that's what you're going to see on your heat maps. You can also filter out. So if we did see one particularly high risk like that, we could say, let's cut the noise and not show any of the others, because we've got a fair amount going on here. So we say we want to have a look at item B. If you press B on your keypad, your computer keyboard, I'm sorry, that will basically zone in on item B. So we're filtering out the rest of the noise so we can focus on that. And you'll notice that now at the top of the screen, it does actually state what that risk is. The other thing that we might want to do is press the letter B again and go and look at a scatter plot, so we can jump in and out of these risks as we need to. So there's my scatter for item B, so we can see how we got there. If we didn't have a lot of agreement there, we might need to re-vote on item B. In this one, there's fairly good consensus. So another thing that we can look at is, instead of the impact and likelihood against the assessment scores that we gave them, we can have a look by diversity. So we can see we've got quite a lot of agreement on B there, but we have not so much agreement on item C. That's scoring very high on the impact diversity scale. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So this is an example of one where we probably would want to revote that item after a bit of discussion and see whether we can come to a bit greater consensus on it. So all that you have to do to revote an item is right-click on that risk and then choose whether you want to revote on just one of the assessments or on all of them. So another thing that we can do is categorize our risks. So again, if we've got a very long list, we might have a very, very busy heat map. On this one, I've only got 3 risks that are in my finance category. So I've filtered by those, and you can see at the top, it is displaying which category we've zoomed in on. The other thing that we can have a look at is the individual assessments one at a time. So we can show average graphs like this one. And the other thing that is very popular is to use scores. So rather than looking at those individual assessments, what we want to have a look at is which scores the highest and concentrate on that one. So this example, again, item B is our big concern. It has a very high risk score. So how you calculate those scores, again, is definable. So a common method is to simply do impact multiplied by likelihood multiplied by control, for example. But there are various options, so you can define to a degree. It only works with whole numbers, so you can't divide by a fraction at the moment. Okay, at the end of the risk assessment, you will also be able to export the data. So this is an example of an Excel export of a workshop. So we can see that by overall scores from the entire group, and any notes and things that we've made will also get exported at this time. And you can see by individual keypads. So we have got our full audit there as well. So you can see in this example how each of the keypads has voted on each of the risks, and I've got 3 assessments showing there. You may have more. Within Matrix, you can have up to 9 criteria. I've never actually seen anybody do that myself, but I have seen people run perhaps 5. So you might be doing inherent scores first for impact and likelihood, and then your control. And then you might have separate votes for residual, for example. So again, pretty user definable. You need to work with us in terms of your process, and we'll help you to set this up accordingly. So that's a pretty quick whistle stop tour. Obviously might not answer all of your questions, but hopefully it does address the key ones. And if there's more that you want to know, obviously, please do get in touch with us.